So this is part 2 of a 2-part video series, and part 1 already exists somewhere, and if you haven't seen it, you should probably go find it out in the ether. Awkward enough. So moving right along, number 9. Shrek 2. Shrek 2 is a movie-based game, obviously, based on the movie Shrek 2. Also obviously. It was released in 2004 by the company Activision. This one, honestly, it hurts me to admit, and it hurts to put it on this list with all of these other just amazing games, and it hurts that this was such a big part of my childhood. Here we are, and this is life, and I cannot deny the truth. Me and my brother beat this game countless times for some reason. I don't know why. This game isn't really that good. It's just kind of fine. We used to fight over who would get to play Puss in Boots. About 90% of the time we played it. He was probably the most ridiculous character to play. He was just like super zippy and fast, and he had a really weird jump move, and it was just weird. My brother would usually end up playing Donkey, which in hindsight is way better than Puss in Boots, because he had this move. A kicking backflip that is so powerful that it can bend reality.
My burrow blast!
To this day, we also reference this thing where you'd start a minigame, and then the magic mirror would come in and go, "Hero time!" I don't know why that stuck out. Moving on to something less soul-crushingly cringy. Okay. Ow. Number 10. It's actually just Sly Cooper and the Thievius Raccoonus, but I have the collection, so. Sly Cooper and the Thievius Raccoonus. Once again, I'm sure you all know what this game is. It's basically a 3D platformer. Has a lot of stealth and evasion tactics that you use to navigate through the levels. And the main goal here is to get pages of the Thievius Raccoonus, which is the book that details all of the thieving techniques that Sly Cooper's family developed. And this book was ironically stolen, and all the pages were split between a bunch of gang members, and now I have to go get them all back. This game was released in 2002 by Sucker Punch. This is one of those games where I would just sit in the worlds and look around, and I would explore past any point of necessity. Like, these games did encourage a lot of exploration, but yeah, I would take it to the 11th number on the dial with exploring. All the levels are just so unique, and they're satisfying, and they filled me with a lot of wonder, and the art direction is really, really good for this game as well. I think that was one of the main points upon release that they used as a selling point, is this sort of cel-shaded art direction. This game also actually features probably my favorite villain from a childhood game, Clockwork. He's also probably the most intimidating villain from a childhood game. The build-up for this villain was very, very well done. Every time they would show him, he would just be like a big, tall, evil-looking shadow. He's also in the background of all of the pictures of Sly's ancestors. If you look hard enough, you'll be able to see him back there just like stalking all of them. And spoilers ahead, when you fight him, at the end of the game in his volcano hideout, things get pretty creepy. During the first phase of the boss fight, you just fly around on a jetpack and blow holes into his body, and eventually he crashes down into the lava below, and then you also have to go down and you hop across the lava like on his body parts and parts of his hideout that have like fallen in, and you have to go find his disembodied head, which is still screaming about how much it hates you, and then you beat the crap out of it. It was awesome. It doesn't help his intimidation factor when in the second game he literally like flies all around the final level, like the home world, just looking for you. He's shooting spotlights out everywhere and making this sound. He's always like just around somewhere. It's so freaking creepy. And it's so freaking cool. All of these games, 11 out of 10, but mostly the first one for me. Number 11. A. Star Wars Battlefront. And I'm not talking about that crap that EA and DICE put out a couple years ago. The first Star Wars Battlefront was made in 2004 by Pandemic, and the sequel was released in 2005, also by Pandemic. I can't even begin to imagine how many hours I've sunk into these two games. As you can probably figure out by this point that I love exploring. If you've ever played these games, you can just only imagine how excited these maps made me. Oh my gosh, these maps. Every single one of them had so much to look at. They were so dense. They had a bunch of buildings and hallways and a lot of secrets. A lot of places that the soldiers wouldn't even go, and you could just like go sit there and look around. I wasn't even that concerned about the fighting most of the time. Me and my brother, and a lot of times just me, we would start battles and then just spend the entire time looking around and goofing off and playing with like the vehicles and things on the map. The actual battle portion is very fun though, I don't want to neglect that. And if you haven't done Assault Mode on Mos Eisley with a couple friends, you just haven't lived. Number 12. Da 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 da. I don't have the game. Clockwork Knight. This game was released in 1995 by Sega on the Sega Saturn. This was literally the only game that I had for the Saturn, the other one being a disc with a bunch of demos on it, including Clockwork Knight actually. It's pretty much just a platformer, pretty standard stuff. I actually wrote about this one in my first grade journal. I wrote about a lot of games in my journals. This was probably my first video game obsession. Morning to night, every day, every waking moment of my life, I was playing this game. And I played it until my Saturn crapped out and just like wouldn't even turn on anymore. This also is a contender for the first game I ever beat alongside SpongeBob Super Sponge from the previous part. Looking back at this game is fun. You're basically a wind-up knight toy that's navigating a house, fighting a bunch of other toys, trying to rescue a princess. It's kind of like Toy Story, but the style is not even close. Like, just look at it. It's so strange, and it kind of strikes like a creepy chord, especially the bosses. I can't even really explain how creepy and weird some of these bosses were, so I'm just gonna show you. Like, what is that? What is that? Some of the levels are actually genuinely pretty interesting though, and they all have some kind of quirk to them that makes them different than the last, and I mean that's pretty much a given in a platformer, but I think this game pulled off the levels pretty well. I really want to get my hands on this game again somehow. I don't even know if it's still around. I don't even know if it's any good. I would really like to hope that it is though. Number 13. Here come dat boy. Just kidding, it's me, Hillary. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. This whole ordeal was released in 2003 by Konami, and it was based on the TV series that also came out in 2003. And I loved that TV series. And I loved this game. It's an arcade style beat 'em up, like top-down view sort of thing. And you basically just go in levels based around each part of the TV series. And you can play as each turtle individually. That you can also get a couple other players in, and they can play as turtles as well. You can also eventually unlock a lot of other side characters for the versus mode, but you can't, for freaking some reason, play them in the actual main game, even though I would love that. The crap, Konami. This one took me years to beat. Actual years. It gets freaking brutal. The Elemental Ninja, the Elite Foot Ninja, the entire final level, This is a freaking gauntlet, and it is hard to get through. But taking a crack at this game for many, many years was a blast, even when you lost. The real lasting effects that this game had on me, though, were listening to this.
Dice! Shell sweep on this! Eat feet!
All day. Number 14. Yeah. Autofocus. Lego Star Wars. And the original Lego Star Wars. Not some freaking complete saga bullcrap. Just Lego Star Wars with this cantina and these characters and nothing else. Everything else is heresy. This not pile of bullcrap was released in 2005 by Traveler's Tales. The main reason I put this on the list is that, well, it is very nostalgic for me, but it's also the first game that I ever got through 100%, like got every little bit of everything in the game. I even did overkill and just started like making money. I think I ended up getting like 4 million studs or something. It's completely unnecessary. The game is also incredibly fun though. And 90% of that fun was killing my brother. Let's be honest, killing your friends was most of what made this game as fun as it is. We all know about the Lego series games, so I don't want to spend forever on it. Also, I don't want to get a cease and desist from Disney because of this footage, so. Number 15. RuneScape. I don't know how to show an MMO. From ages 10 to 14, do you want to know where you can find me? Playing RuneScape. I don't want to go outside, Mom. RuneScape was made in its first form in 2001 by the company Jagex. And I started playing in December of 2004 under the name Snotgun3. It's a great name, 10-year-old me. I started playing this game on my parents' crappy desktop that took about a half hour to load this game. And once it did load, it ran at like an actual 2 frames per second. It was miserable. The game was that good that it was worth that to me. I have a lot of very dear memories with this game. Once again, this was a freaking dream come true for exploring-oriented me. And it was also my first online game ever. I have some funny noob stories from this actually. Like there was one time I found a bronze bar on the ground and I picked it up and I thought it was a chocolate bar. I didn't, I guess, know that you could open the menu and see that it said bronze bar. And then I spent like 2 days trying to figure out how to eat it, which obviously didn't work. There was a time that someone gave me 100 GP, which is exponentially more money than I had ever had up to that point. And the very first thing I did with it was go to that fortune teller in Varrock, and I paid her my newfound wealth to tell me fortunes. And then I also remember the first time someone tried to lure me into the wilderness, and it didn't work, by the way. I was too smart for them. Meaning that the sign popped up saying, "Dangerous, you're going into the wilderness, stop." And I listened to it. I spent 4 years playing this game, and I only ever got to about level 94. That's because I spent all my time just goofing off. I never even got a 99 in the skill. I spent all my time screwing around. I just loved finding towns and talking to NPCs and talking to players, finding cool items and creatures. It's everything I had wanted as a kid, and they ruined it! They destroyed it! Despite some minor issues that I do take with this game these days, it did shape a lot of what I think about how game design should be done, especially with RPGs. I could spend forever talking about this game, but this video can't go on forever, so. Number 16. This one.
It's literally all glare. It's just a white.
Number 16. Spyro Year of the Dragon. I'm sure everybody saw this coming from a mile away. This game is everybody's favorite. I'm so basic. I'm such a normie. I'm a basic gaming normie. White trash. Yes, I love all the Spyro games. I did play all of them to death, but Year of the Dragon is my favorite one, and it's the one that I spent way more time playing than the other ones, so that is the one going on the list. Spyro was released in 2000 by Insomniac Games, and it's the third installment of the Spyro series. And as far as I'm concerned, it is the last installment of the Spyro series. All that didn't happen. Okay, maybe this one. Just a little bit. Just a little bit though. Where to start with this game? The visuals, the levels, the music, the characters, everything here just hooked me right on in. I was just in love the second I laid eyes on this game. It's very exploring heavy, and again, I love exploring. Me and my brother used to just scour all of the levels for a bunch of like secret hidden rooms or really hard to access areas, and then we would call them our hideout, and we would claim it, and it was ours. And we literally would not let the other person step foot in our hideout. And that made the game very hard to complete sometimes. I also just like loved the worlds. The themes, the colors, even as a kid I took a lot of time to notice how well the worlds were made. One thing I remember is I used to go to the Evening Lake homeworld and I would find the perfect vantage point. And then I would go into targeting mode where it like zooms in and it's kind of like first person. And I would just look at the sky, and I would look at how it transitions from sunset to starry night sky, and it was just beautiful. It almost made me feel nostalgic, even though it wasn't like a part of my past yet. It just kind of, it hit a very emotional string with me. And a lot of the levels did that. This game really means a lot to me. All three of them do, really. I know they mean a lot to everybody, but yeah, they have a very special place in my heart. And I do hope that the love for these games never dies out. I am looking forward to the Reignited series, by the way. Cross your fingers, everybody. I need these to be good. So that's it for all the games that made me feel nostalgic. That's only 16 of them. I had to narrow it down quite a bit, so sorry if another game that you like was missing. Maybe I'll do this again sometime and include the other games. I don't know. Till then, have a good time on the YouTube.
You're so awkward.